Why are you here? My ex-husband just showed up at my door out of nowhere, even though we've been divorced for 5 years. He's making outrageous demands and threatening to attend my parents' funeral with me, claiming we're going to rekindle our marriage. What the hell is he talking about? He keeps repeating this ridiculous statement. I gave him a dirty look and lashed out, making it clear that we were now strangers. There was no way I would attend the funeral of his parents, who were just as awful as he was. As a 28-year-old office worker, I had been focused on my career since graduating from university. I worked hard and climbed up the corporate ladder, finding fulfillment in my job. But then my life took a turn when I met Andy, who eventually became my husband. We crossed paths through work, as he was employed by a client company. Andy exuded a calm and gentle aura, working at his own pace without constraints yet achieving his goals. I found myself drawn to him more and more as we collaborated. Our connection grew, and he eventually asked me out. After about a year of dating, he proposed, and I accepted wholeheartedly. Our families were overjoyed, and we celebrated a memorable wedding. We embarked on our honeymoon and started our married life with enthusiasm. Both of us continued working, supporting each other and sharing household responsibilities. Andy, having lived independently since university, was adept at cooking and contributed to our home life. I appreciated his considerate nature and reliable support, which allowed me to focus on my career. Then came the news of my pregnancy. While I was thrilled to have a child, I desired to work a little longer. My plan was to take a year-long maternity leave and then return to my job. Andy agreed with my decision. Our daughter, Lydia, was born healthy, bringing immense joy to both of us, as well as our parents. However, Andy's parents frequently invited us to visit them, and their constant demands began to wear on me. That's when Andy made a suggestion. He proposed that we temporarily move in with my parents during my maternity leave. The idea of constantly arranging visits was becoming tiresome, and this way, we could share the household responsibilities and child rearing with them. It made sense since we were living in a rented apartment at the time, making it easy for us to relocate. We discussed the plan with my parents, and they warmly welcomed us into their home. As soon as I expressed my gratitude, they took Lydia from my arms, showering her with affection and joy. They were excellent with her, and I believed we would have a peaceful and enjoyable time together. Unfortunately, that turned out to be true only for that day. The next day I was violently awakened by Annie Betty. "How long are you going to stay in bed?" I hastily checked the time on my phone and saw that it was only 5:30 in the morning. What's wrong, Nye? What's wrong? You staying with us for free. I obliged you to make breakfast for the whole family. You have to pack lunch for Andy and John too. I was in shock. I didn't expect to be told such a thing. All of the sudden, Andy assured me before we moved in that his parents could help me with housework on childcare. Of course, as a housewife, I was going to do my share of chores properly. I never thought that the burden would be more than when we lived by ourselves. I was half asleep when I went to the kitchen. Lydia still cried badly at night, so it was 2 a.m. when I finally went to sleep. It was really hard for me to be up and running at 5:30 in the morning. I was moving very slowly. Annie wasn't concerned about my state and complained frantically, "Why are you so slow? You are taking too long. Move faster. Oh my God, here. Clumsy. So annoying." I had never seen such a frightening expression in her face before. And what she was telling me was unreasonable. In fact, it was my first time cooking in her kitchen and I had no idea where everything was. I didn't understand why I had told it by her. Then, perhaps sensing that I wasn't happy, she yelled at me again. "What's that? Look on your face. You got a problem with me?" "No, it's not like that. It's just that I'm not familiar with this kitchen yet." Besides, Lydia cried a lot last night and I had only 3 hours of sleep. I'd like you to consider that a little more. I tried to be as polite and down to earth as possible as I argued my case to her. She sneered and replied, I can't imagine what it's gonna be like for us from now on. If you like this from day one, you are such a croak, making up excuses like that and trying to slack a guest. A woman with a half as to career, has a half as silver-tongued town, but it doesn't work on me. You are the daughter-in-law of this family. You are going to obey everything we tell you. Keep that in mind. She ordered me to finish making breakfast and lunch boxes, and then she started watching TV as she lunched on the sofa with her coffee. Soon after, Andy and John got up and sat down at the dining table. Annie also joined them, and to my surprise, she started ranting to them about how useless and bad cook I was in front of me. John commented, "That's not good. We have to educate her properly." I was disappointed in him for taking her words and for making such a statement. My in-laws welcomed me and were kind to me at first, which made me hope that he would be on my side. Andy was Annie's only son, so I thought she was jealous of me taking him from her when John also started acting cold toward me. It became clear that my in-laws considered me an enemy. My daughter was still a newborn and I was still in love with Andy, so I didn't think about divorcing him. Andy was on my side at that time, telling them Buddy was doing her chores well at home before I thought if he protected me, I could get by. Besides, we were only living together for a limited time while I was on leave. If I just put up with them for a little while, there'll be no problem. It turned out I was naive. Their bullying became even worse. Party. Hurry up and go buy the snack I asked you for. Hey, why haven't you cleaned the garden I asked you to? You are so useless. You are incompetent. They were unreasonable and abusive at the same time. I looked to Andy for help. Guys, don't be too hard on her. That was all he said and went to lay on the sofa as if he had nothing to do with it anymore. I expected him to be sterner with them, but he avoided making eye contact with me. My in-laws weren't persuaded to change their attitude just because their son gave them a soft warning. They continued to treat me like a slave and insulted me every chance they had. It's a shame to think that Lydia has poor genes from you. I hope Andy's side comes out stronger. I wish you would just leave Lydia with us and move out. I couldn't stand their hostility anymore. What made them think it's okay to deny my personality? They were becoming out of control, so I consulted Andy. Huh? Can you do something about your parents? You need to persuade them to stop mistreating me. He frowned at me. I've been doing everything I can, haven't I? You can take care of the rest yourself. I heard you've been skipping chores at home. A neighbor even told me that it must be tough to have a lazy wife. Wait a minute, why would the neighbor say that? I don't know. She's close to my mom, so they must talk a lot. Anyway. Don't humiliate me. Are you kidding me? Are you saying that is all my fault too? No, but if you'd behaved to yourself, Mom and Dad wouldn't have complained. I was shocked by his comment. I can't take it anymore. No matter how hard I try. They don't approve of me. Let's just get a place for ourselves again. We've been living here for more than half a year. They must have had enough time with India now and is simply refused my suggestion. Why not? I told them we would stay with them for a year. If we leave now, I'm breaking my promise. I don't want to hurt them. Jesus. So will you promise me that we'll move out after a few more months? Sure. I promise. I decided to endure it as best as I could for the remainder of my stay. I managed to get through 5 more months of hell, and the promised 1 year was up. I immediately told Andy we were going to move out. I had even been sneaking out to view many apartments for the day since we could move easily. I showed him the information I got from the realtor. He scratched his head and announced something insane. You know, my parents are saying that we should just live here forever. Excuse me. So, let's just stay here and not move out. Are you crazy? You promised me, didn't you? Will you move out after 1 year? I can't believe you would break your promise. When I accused him, he snapped back. Shut up. I am your husband. You listen to what I tell you. I was stunned to see him suddenly turn red and yell at me at the same time. My love for him instantly cooled down. Fine, I get it. Then let's get a divorce. What the hell, divorce? Are you serious? He shouted even louder. My in-laws heard him and rushed into our room. What's going on here? You woke lady and she's crying. Now I heard you yelling. Don't tell me this thing is giving you trouble. Who was he referring to by this thing? Their behavior seriously pissed me off and Annie was on their side. Yeah. Dad, this thing wants to get out of here as soon as possible. It's been talking about getting a divorce. When Annie explained, they became furious at me. You are a piece of work. You really are a lousy human. Get a divorce, Andy. She asked for it, so just get rid of her and let us take custody of Lydia. We'll be a happy family. Then Andy seemed to be convinced by her. That makes sense. I haven't done anything wrong, even if I refuse to divorce her. She's forcing me to leave. That's fine. I'll give it to you. Let's hurry up and file for it. He finally declared. I got ready and went out. Then I brought the divorce papers back home. Oh, you are back. Who's that guy? Andy and his parents are puzzled looking at the man in a suit standing next to me. He's my attorney I've been consulting with for some time. I thought that maybe things would turn bad, so I've been preparing for it. When they heard the word attorney, they flinched. Why do you need him? Did you think I was gonna keep quiet and let you guys get away with it? I recorded all the insights that came from Annie and John with a voice recorder, and wrote about them on my blog as evidence. I also kept the records and proof that I consulted you about it. I took all this to my attorney and he assured me that I had a valid case against you. So I'm divorcing you and taking Lydia with me. I'm also going to charge you alimony and child support for all the emotional pain and suffering you have caused me. They all turned pale listening to my declaration. They never expected me to be prepared for this. Andy seemed to understand that he was being pushed to the edge of a cliff, right, honey? All right. I'm sorry. Let's leave this house and live happily with only the three of us. I'll do as you say. He abruptly changed his attitude, but it was already too late. You and your parents are the three of you now. You three lousy adults can live happily together. If I keep plead here any longer, she will be influenced by you guys. I refuse to be with in-laws who enjoy bullying and the son who encourages it. I want you to sign the divorce papers now. He was agitated by my firm stand, but when my attorney mentioned that it'll go to court, if he refused, he reluctantly signs them. I gained custody of Lydia and successfully distanced myself from Andy and my former in-laws. Andy was obligated to provide child support, but my revenge didn't end there. I made sure to share the evidence I had collected with nosy neighbors and Andy's boss. As a result, the shocking truth about my ex-husband's behavior quickly spread throughout the community. Neighbors shunned them, and Andy faced scorn from his co-workers. He carried the burden of shame while working hard to fulfill his obligations for alimony and child support. 5 years had passed since our divorce when, unexpectedly, Andy showed up at my doorstep one day. I couldn't help but ask, "What are you doing here?" I hadn't seen him once in the past 5 years as he had refused to see his own daughter. So why did he suddenly appear now? He made outrageous demands, insisting that he accompany me to my parents' funeral, claiming we were going to rekindle our marriage. I was dumbfounded. What was he talking about? Why on earth would I need to do that? If you do, they'll give me a little more grace, he insisted. I had no clue what he meant, and his impatience grew as he began revealing what had transpired since our divorce. Andy's parents, having grown accustomed to relying on me for all the housework, became too lazy to do it themselves. Eventually, they hired a housekeeper, but they were just an ordinary family and couldn't sustain that expensive lifestyle. Desperate, they turned to a loan shark, and Andy faced rejection and agony from his female co-workers, making it difficult for him to form new relationships. He even made an inappropriate advance towards the housekeeper, which led to his arrest and subsequent termination from his job. He remained unemployed for a long time. Meanwhile, debts piled up, and the entire family decided to escape in the dead of night. While John was driving, he accidentally lost control of the car on a mountain road, resulting in a tragic accident. His parents died at the scene, and he was left with a massive amount of debt, along with additional medical bills. The debt collectors eventually found him, pushing him into a desperate situation. To repay the debt, he concocted a plan to get back together with me, assuming I was making good money. He believed I would help him settle the debt at the funeral. However, none of it was my concern, and I had no obligation to assist him. Please help me out. I have nobody but you now. Let's get married again. Let's love each other and raise our daughter together, he pleaded, sinking to his knees. I looked down at the man who continued to speak selfishly and spewed nonsense. Enough, I said sternly. You and I are strangers now. There's no way I'm attending the funeral of your parents, who were just as despicable as you are. You brought this upon yourself. Now leave before I call the police. The mention of the word police sent him into a panic, and he hurriedly walked away. Through an acquaintance, I learned that he disappeared after the funeral. No one knows where he went, but I feel no sympathy for him because he deserved everything that came his way. I am now dedicated to raising my beloved daughter, who is growing into a wonderful young girl, providing her with the best care I can offer. I am also determined to excel in my job and make the most of my life.